Hey guys, how you doing? It's John Richards here with UltimAider, and we're going to talk about trail cam mounts today. It's middle of May, turkey season's coming to an end. People are about to start switching gears from turkey back to whitetail. We need to start getting out in the woods, start scouting. Most of my customer base are mobile hunters, which means we're probably hunting either large lots of private land or public land, somewhere where we can move around, and we got to do some scouting. We don't just have box blinds sitting up on a pedestal over a bait pile. Some of us may, and even then we're still probably using trail cams to get some intel on what's out there on our fields. So with that said, I got a couple trail cams here, and we have what we're releasing is our trail cam collection. Or our trail cam mount collection, excuse me. So we have two different mounts that are geared towards private land hunters, and we have two that are geared towards public. Obviously the public land trail mounts can be used on private or public, but for example, we have a screw-in model for private land. Most public lands, you're not going to be legally allowed to screw this into a tree. So let's run over to a tree and we'll kind of go over a couple of these mounts and how I would install them. Most of them are going to be self-explanatory, like this screw-in mount. Simply screw it to the tree, attach your camera, adjust your angle, and move on. There's a couple other ones that are a little bit more unique that we'll talk about out there in the tree. Okay guys, so here we came to this tree specifically because it is on an angle. So this is our most simple mount. It's a screw-in mount. And with the screw-in mount, you have the versatility of being able to stop your angle anywhere. So these angle trees is not an issue with a screw-in mount. Maybe this is the only tree that you have to attach a camera to. And you don't want your camera sitting on an angle just by strapping it on there and putting sticks on it. You want it to sit up and down. So with the screw-in mount, and if you see we're generous on the length of the screw, you don't have to drive that all the way in, but there is going to be some situations where you have thicker bark trees where maybe half of that is going to disappear just into the bark before you actually hit the meat of the tree. But you simply just screw this in till you feel it's secure enough to hold your camera. And then simply just tighten your camera on top. We use these plastic thumb screws to make it easy to get your camera angled in the direction you want it to. Bring the thumb screw up to hold your camera in that direction. If your camera's not sitting straight, simply turn it a little bit more for the screw. And then on the side you have another thumb screw. You can adjust that angle down, tighten it back. And the grooves that we use, this will not slip. This will hold your camera. You can have squirrels climbing out on it. It's not gonna slip down, but it's gonna hold that angle exactly how you want it. You can point it straight down. So on the angle of the tree, your screw-in mount is probably your most versatile for private land hunters. And again, you don't have to drive that screw all the way in. Drive it in till you feel it's strong enough to hold your camera and move on. But if you got those thicker bark trees, the screw's generous enough to be able to get through that bark and get to the main part of the tree. So for this one, that's simply it. There's nothing else to talk about. Okay, so this one right here is our version of the screw-in, but for public land, because we can't screw in on public land legally. We have a screw-in. It's got 3 different axes, so you can rotate your camera, you can tilt your camera, and then you also have the ability to swing your camera in this orientation. So we're on the same tree, and to attach this to the tree, you're going to just run your strap. You take the strap that came with your camera. We may have straps that you can purchase separately as well, but most cameras come with a strap. so we probably all have straps for our cameras. So this one would simply, even branches, horizontal branches or deadfalls. I used it on deadfalls, and it worked great, completely sideways. But yeah, so we can strap this to the tree, get it on the side of the tree we want it. You can leave this on the orientation it is, and then you can straighten this out. Take your camera, thread it on, and it works the same way. Once you get it where you want it, bring that thumb screw up, loosen this one, tilt it up, and get it on the angle you want. Now it's not going to slip, it's not going to flip, it's going to hold its position. Squirrels climbing on it, whatever the case is, you might get a little bounce, but that's it. It's going to stay pointed right where you have it pointed at, and it's going to be nice and level. Okay, these last two are my favorite because they're a little bit more unique than all the other ones that you might find out there on the market. This one here is geared towards private land hunters. I don't know, maybe you're allowed to use it on public land, but it attaches to a T-post. This would be great for food plots where you don't have a tree, maybe a field, tall grass. You have no tree to attach it to. You got a nice runway. You want to put a trail cam on that runway and you don't have a tree. You can drive a T-post in. And what this is right here, the plastic piece on the back is an insulator. Use a snap to T-post for farmers to run their electric wire through the plastic insulator without the electric wire touching the fence. So to attach this to a T-post, turn it, and it snaps on. And just like every other camera, and another thing that works out, so this camera here in particular broke, so the strap doesn't hold on there. So this works out pretty nice. Now the tilt on this may or may not be as useful. So let's go back here so you can see better. T-post, you're not going to be able to set your camera up high like we like to do on public land. We like to get it out of the eyes of people, but this does get your camera here. You can tilt it if there is a need that you find. Maybe you're on the side of a hill and you need to tilt that down. You still have the option to tilt. Maybe you're putting it down low and you need to tilt it up a little bit. You have that option. You can bring this on an upward angle. But this is our T-post mount. This one is geared towards private land and just a little bit different than some of the other things I've seen out there. Now okay, here we are. This tree's good as any. So this one, we're calling it the discreet one. This is the only mount that's going to come with an attachment method other than the screw-in one, but it's going to come with some sort of strap. And all we're using on this is 550 paracord, and we kept it that way in case you go around a smaller tree and you got a lot of slack hanging down and you want to cut it short. It's easy to replace. Most of us probably have some paracord, in our bins at home. So the reason we're using paracord, and you still have a slot, so you have the option to put it on with a strap. You can go up to a 1-inch strap if you want to. The paracord is making it a little bit more discreet. If you're on public land, which this one doesn't screw in, so it's designed for public land, you want to keep it a little bit less out of view from people walking through. So if you're anything like me, you like to place your cameras up high. Here we're going to demonstrate it at this height, and I'll give you a close-up of how this works. But the idea here, how I like to run this one is how I like to install this one is I'll take this arm off completely and I'll screw this to the bottom of my camera. So I'll just take this arm, attach it right to the bottom of the camera, pretty much get it where I want it, and I'll snug that up. We can always make adjustments once we're on there. So all I did was just put this arm on the bottom of the camera. It gets it out of the way to attach this to the tree with the paracord. That's the reason why I'm doing that. So to attach this with the paracord, and again, I'll bring the camera up close. As we come around, everything's marked with arrows. So there's a groove up here, there's an arrow there, And I like to switch hands at this point so I can hold this nice and tight and pull this piece of paracord nice and tight till it snaps in. Then there's arrows on this side. Again, I'll bring that over here, but we're going to come down. We're going to go around this nub, and there's another lock-in place where we're going to pull down to lock it in. So once we lock it in that second time, this paracord can't come out. And you see the excess. We give you around 7 feet of paracord. So if this was hanging down and you didn't want to wrap it around 2 more times, because now you're kind of taking away the discreteness or the invisibility of this paracord on the back of the tree, you might just cut this, and again, super easy to replace. It's just a piece of paracord with a knot in the side. Now you're standing up on your stick. Hopefully you have your lineman's belt on, but by taking this off, it makes it super easy to install too. You can just slide this right on, let it hang, grab your nut, hand start your nut, get this at the angle you want, finish securing it, and lock that in, and that's not going to go anywhere. One thing we incorporated with our design is we added an extension down lower than where the strap attaches to, so this whole thing can't flip over. The nubs on these arms that connect it to the actual base are deep enough where it won't slip. So I like to say, no slip, no flip, no shit. So thanks again for watching, and if you have use for these, man, stop in UltimAider.com, pick one up, and we appreciate your support. Let's see, we're centered on the frame. Come through. Again, I switch hands. I pull this as tight as I can. Get through there, you'll hear that little pop. I just go underneath, I wrap it around. I don't do that tight, but I pull down. And once that locks in, then you have your slop up and down a little bit, but once you get your camera on there and you put your weight on it, I've had one sitting out for months now, and it's still holding.